So today we got Jonathan Velasco on here. Jonathan, you run, how many miles a week do you run?
For me, it's a range, but if I had to give a number straight up, 100 to 110 miles a week. So
So
not something the average person
you ever
does.
skip on that? Do you ever go like under 100 or no?
Yeah, so it depends on the part of the season I'm in, and in the off season, I don't always do 100 miles a week. Sometimes I'm building up. I have like an off season, so to speak, where I take some time off where I don't run. But
All right, cool. Well, welcome everybody. Today is going to be 6 benefits of running from a D1 runner, Jonathan here. He's going to share, we've talked about collaborating, and he's going to share with us his 6 benefits he's seen in his life from running. And so hopefully this can be helpful for someone out there. Samir, you want to say anything else before we dive into the 6 things?
Oh no, super happy to have Jonathan on our podcast today. If you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to email us at decodingsociallife@gmail.com. I hope this content is helpful and helps improves people's lives and makes an impact on people's life. And yeah, I look forward to talking more about this new topic.
All right, Jonathan, why don't you start from 6 and give us number 6?
yeah, so improve mental health for me is such a big thing in just all sports in general, but in the running world, having a like good healthy mind, like improving your mental health is such a big thing in all sports and being good if you want to take it seriously in anything. And it's important to have um, a healthy relationship with anything you do in life. So
So how would you say that running specifically improves your mental health? Like, is it more like within how much you train, or is it more within like the release that it gives you to go on a run? Or like, can you talk about that more specifically?
I would say there's many ways. It helps me definitely from a running perspective of setting goals. I think those are good things in life, to set goals and to have and to achieve them, or to not, and you persevere through them. I think those are huge things. And also improve mental health from having more friends and having people you can relate to. And it's kind of like almost like a job if you think about where you have people you are connecting with that have similar interests. And they may not also be people who exactly have the same outside interest. So you also learn more about people's outside interests, and you learn how to connect with different people from an outside perspective.
Right on, right on. Anything else you want to add, Henry, to that?
No.
Well, I don't know. It kind of ties into something that we're going to talk about later in our conversation. But has this ever happened to you that you're running, and you hit a plateau? Like you're stagnant, and you're not improving at all. And how do you stay mentally engaged during those times? How do you what drives you to continue running, even when you're not hitting your goals or achieving your goals?
Absolutely. I
Like,
mean,
how
I
does
get
that
them all the time.
how does that affect your mental health, and in what ways does it affect your mental health?
There's also some cons to it. Like if you're super competitive about what you want to achieve, sometimes it can get in your head, and that's where the resilience part is super important. Having that having that mindset to persevere through things is so important.
Got you.
And
And
sometimes things don't always plan out the way you want them, and
uh,
that's just like part of life. Like that's just like a big life improve or a big life expectation that you should have, is being able to persevere through things even if they don't work out, or finding ways to problem solve if not.
okay, but again, I would ask you this: that what drives you to continue doing what you're doing, even if you're not getting the results? What's the driving force behind it?
I mean, number one, I love what I do. I enjoy going out for runs. This is something I found an interest in high school, and um, to me, it's almost addictive. It feels so good to have, um, not even just the success part, but just like being able to do something that a lot of people would be in wow if they can be able to do something like run for an hour without stopping, or 2 hours without stopping, and being able to have a conversation with people.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that honestly that pushes us to your next point about social connections, number 5. So
Yeah,
why don't you just lead us into that and talk about, because like that's amazing that you're able to do that. I went for a run the other day, and I'm barely out of breath going up these hills. Like I went up for a 3 mile run, and it was really long for me. Like that was a good run for me. And so just talk about like the social connections with running, and I know you're on a team, so talk about that, and then like your friendships you've made through running and stuff like that.
for sure. I mean, these social connections for me, it mainly happens in. So we have different structure training. We have to put it in simple terms, we have the high intensity, we got the medium kind of efforts, and then we got the lower intensity, which is like the easy runs. And I would feel like the social connections really comes into play in the easy runs. And we have a lot of conversations together as a team. And this team, the St. Mary's team, happens to be about 30 people. So it's a lot of different people to socialize with. And there's so many different connections you can make. And you learn so many new things when you talk to someone for an hour. And sometimes you get connections out of it in terms of like knowing just other people. And it might also help me in the job world too. And um, I want to go into PT, and being able to talk to people that potentially have family members or other people that they know that are in that field
Mm-hmm.
has also been nice to hear about. And if I wasn't a runner, I wouldn't be able to have those connections, I feel.
Yeah, super cool, super cool.
Yeah.
Love that. What's I was actually scrolling through my IG the other day, and I have been seeing a lot of this. It's called the running clubs.
Hmm.
Can you elaborate more on that and how people can make meaningful relationships, build network connections through that?
Absolutely.
Just for the people who don't know anything about the running clubs.
Yeah. I mean, like anything, joining a club is always huge when you're trying to get connections or know more people in your area. That is such a big thing to know more people means you're going to have more connections in the world. That's just I feel it's a known thing.
Gotcha. All right. Shall we move on?
Yeah, why don't you, Jonathan? Why don't you go to number 4?
Sure. Mental toughness is another big one in the running world. I feel is huge. Mental toughness is something that has been gained more and more each year I run. I've been running for I want to say 8ish years, and I've gotten more mentally resilient and tough from having to deal with also the you can also tie it into the mental health, but of setting these goals and sometimes not achieving them, or you do achieve them, but then how do you bounce off of it and come even stronger? And also you can talk about mental health from a different perspective. Um, and with running, there's a pain involved,
Yeah,
um, and that pain, the more you push through that pain, you could argue the more success you get out of it. Because our sport's getting from point A to point B the quickest you can get, or the fastest you can get there, and it involves more and more pain. The faster you got to run, or the faster you get to A to B, it's going to hurt even more.
yeah. I saw
So
this video,
it's
and
kind of like life, where if you think about in most things, if you really want something or pursue something, and you want it at a higher level, you usually have to do more just to get that thing, just to get a little bit better, or to really achieve that goal. You really have to be mentally tough.
nice. Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. I think
Yeah.
I love how you said the thing about pain, because I watched this video and it was like, if you want to really be an athlete, you got to love pain. And I think it's true no matter what sport you play. Like for me, I know I've dealt with like a lot of back pain in golf, and like also fractured my foot running as well. So talk about, have you ever dealt with injuries, and has that played into, I know like most runners have dealt with injuries. Have you dealt with
Yeah.
injuries? I think you
Um,
did, but I can't remember.
yeah. I've had a stress fracture on my tibia, which is the shin bone,
Cool.
and it's been brutal. They told me I couldn't do anything for 12 weeks or 3 months, and um, but you learn to be mentally tough if you really want something. Um, you learn to find a way to persevere through it and achieve these amazing achievements. Or for me, I've achieved some amazing stuff persevering through it.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, let's move on. I love this one that you put for number three, but just staying in shape, and that's obviously super important. So, I mean, just talk about like for like a person who maybe can't run 100 miles a week, who's just trying to stay in
Yeah,
shape. But how can they use running as an outlet to just like stay in solid shape?
absolutely. Running, I mean, the way you stay in shape or stay at a healthy body weight is it all comes down to calories. That is it's a energy measurement that us as humans has used for ages, and running helps with the calories out portion. It's such a big component in being able to stay in shape. If you can burn more calories, you can have a much easier time of having that healthy body weight.
Well, what's one thing I really wanted to ask about in staying in shape was a lot of people have this weird idea that if you run too much, you'll lose a lot of weight. You do lose weight, but you also lose muscle mass. Is that true? Muscle
Yeah,
volume?
running is a catabolic activity. I mean, like most endurance activities, I mean they're catabolic, and there's always that potential if you always take it to the extreme. You can lose some muscle mass out of it, but I feel if you keep it to 30 minutes a day, you do some cardio. This can be running. This can really be any form of cardio.
Like
You
a
do
hit
30 minutes a
workout?
day. Yeah, you're not gonna really lose muscle mass so long as you're doing some form of strength, um, and you're hitting that protein synthesis, which protein synthesis is just another thing that helps with that anabolic window, so to speak. It's just something that a person will hit about 5 times in a day, and you want to consume about 20 to 30 grams of protein, roughly 3 to 5 meals or 3 to 5 times a day. That's something that's going to be huge if you're trying to preserve muscle and
Yeah,
if you're trying to cut, um, not being in a severe calorie deficit too.
got it. All right,
Does running
perfect.
have an effect on your physique? Like, do you train upper body? Because I feel like most runners. I mean, I see you guys all the time running, and like, it's really like obviously you have really strong legs, and it's almost like your upper body. It's like you kind of get like a kind of a lighter upper body because of how much cardio you do, right?
Yes,
Do
well,
you,
that and then also just
do you train arms at all?
I do, but not very extreme. It'd be very light. What people would see is I hardly hit the arms or biceps, triceps, all those, the chest, the back. I really don't hit it too much. In the gym, I really am light on the volume and the intensity of those exercises. I think running, obviously, just having a lighter physique up, like upper body, is going to help. Like weight distribution is so important in our sport. So
All right, moving on. Henry, you want to take it away on the second one?
You can read it.
All right, improved overall health, specifically cardio and joint health. So, Jonathan, can you explain on the fact that how the cardiovascular system improves when you run? Like, what are the major benefits of running in terms of cardiovascular system?
well, I mean, if you look at blood work, for most people, I mean, the literature does prove that cardio helps with blood markers. This can be your cholesterol, like your HDL, and it lowers your LDL. These are huge things in the medical field. And really, honestly, if there was a prescription for exercise, it would be such a big um, thing. Like if you can just give an exercise pill, it would solve a lot of the world's problems.
I was actually about to say that, Jonathan, that
It's a great point.
like rather than taking all those medications, why don't you just go out and exercise, right? Like just
Yeah, I
run
mean,
for
there's always a time commitment to it, and there's the wanting to do it, the determination part.
yeah. Yeah, if because I know this much that if you force exercising on someone, the person perceives it as stress, and stress is not good if you're trying to exercise because it counter reacts for what you're exactly trying to achieve, which is to get healthy. but stress, I feel like increases the cortisol level, which again, it is the complete opposite of what you're trying to do, right? If is that right?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
anything that's perceived as bad, usually you don't want to do it, right? Like people perceive exercise as such a negative thing. And that's why when people ever ask me about, oh, how do I do how do I run like consistently? I always say just do the form of cardio that you prefer the most. If you don't like running, you don't have to do running. You can do biking, swimming. It can be it could even be like yoga or some kind of like form of exercise. It doesn't have to be anything extreme. So it just really depends on the person. Like there's so many forms. There's like probably like 30 different like forms of cardio you can do. Like that's probably just a few that just popped up in my head. Like there's so many.
Probably more than 30, honestly.
Yeah, probably. Like
Just to,
that's how crazy it is. Nowadays there's so many things.
so what do you think holds people back then? We live in a world where it's all fast food and people are out of shape. And like as somebody who runs 100 miles a week, like what would you say to those people like who just have a hard time with maybe that motivation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about just getting started. It's really hard to get started, and sometimes when you're in a rough spot too, it's always hard to dig yourself out of that hole. Like it's easy for me to stay in shape. It's easy for someone who's already in shape to stay in shape. Like I can't speak for someone who is really out of shape and can't. Some people can't actually run. They can't like
Mhm.
though their joint health might suffer, or maybe they already have like a form of arthritis or some bone density problem, or maybe they get back pain. There's so many things that can be a problem. That's why I always say do the form of cardio that you can possibly like the one that you are able to do. And
Mhm.
there's ones like I know for people who are who struggle with weight. There's ones like arm cycling. This is like non-weight bearing, like stuff that's non-weight bearing that you can do that increases that energy increases that energy expenditure, um, and gives you the cardiovascular benefits because cardio isn't just about weight loss. It's also about the cardiovascular system. It's also about the heart. The heart is the most important muscle in the body. If there's one muscle you should take care of, it's the heart. You can live without a bicep. You can
Yeah.
live without a quad. You can't live without a heart. So it's so important to do some form of cardio.
So let me just build on that really quick. So are you tracking yourself with like an Apple Watch or something? Because I just got an Apple Watch. I used to use the Whoop. Have you ever seen those like those Whoop monitors?
Yes, I used the Whoop for 2 years actually.
Okay, yeah,
I
those
think
are pretty great. But what
yeah,
are you now, or what's talk about your
I
journey?
use I use a standard running watch. It's a Coros watch. It's just a running brand.
Huh?
Basically just tracks like mileage from a GPS standpoint. It's great for that. It has heart rate. I do use a chest strap for heart rate to get that optimal. Yeah, it's a heart rate detector that it's pretty precise. It's not 100%, but it's pretty close to
How
it.
does the chest strap work? Is that relaying to your watch?
Yeah, so it connects via Bluetooth.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
So
So what's your heart rate at? Is it like 130, 150 when you're like a smooth jog like on a
on
flat?
an easy jog, usually, I mean, it depends on the temperature too. Like heart rate always varies
Huh?
on that. And if you're dehydrated, your heart rate's always going to be elevated. Or if I'm talking and I'm
Yeah,
running, even if it's easy,
or if
it's
you're
always going to be
stressed out
slightly
or
elevated.
anxious or whatever.
Exactly. There's so many factors. But
Yeah.
if I had to give a range, I'm going to say 130 to 150 is usually like my easy runs. And my max heart rate's around 200. It's like
Wow.
202. I've gotten it tested in a lot. So,
Damn.
yeah. I've
Okay.
even done a VO2 max test, which is like
Oh,
uh,
how about that?
the oxygen, basically a way of testing your oxygen capacity in simple terms.
Super
And
sick.
I've
You
tested
strap
super high for that.
you strap a thing on your.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I tested at 87, which is like crazy high. This is like something that would be like this number is roughly three folds or three times the amount of what an average person can have of VO2 max or what most people would have. So my oxygen capacity is about roughly as good as three people put together.
Wow.
So yeah,
Holy
and
shit.
it's from training, genetics. I mean, there's so many factors that go into these things. My lifestyle. So
Okay, so lastly, what about joint health? I mean, I know people, there's kind of talk about the stigma around, I know people say running kills your knees.
absolutely.
So,
So
yeah, talk about that.
I believe so. If you take running to the extreme, like I do, from a performance perspective, it does have an impact on joints for sure. If you're a person who does about 30 minutes of cardio a day, the literature proves that you won't have any. You're less likely to have joint problems, and actually even less likely to have joint problems than people who do no activity, because joints actually are kind of like, it's like a picture a door hinge, and if you don't put some form of like a wax or an oil, it
Mhm.
gets squeaky.
Yeah.
So there's these things in our joints that are basically these little, they're called bursa sacs, and every single time you crush the bursa sacs, when you put weight on it, essentially, you release this thing called synovial fluid. And synovial fluid is something that helps kind of lubricate the joints. And that only happens, that process, if you do activity or put weight on it. This can be strength training, this can be anything that puts a weight bearing activity. And this helps preserve the joints. Not that joints could really get stronger. It's not like a muscle. Um, it doesn't get like super big or super strong from stress on it, but it can stay healthy if you put weight on it.
Super interesting. Wow, you really
Yeah,
know about that stuff.
yeah. I mean, I took a anatomy and physiology class and learned a lot about that, and how putting weight on joints aren't actually a bad thing. But in extreme, yes, of course. Like anything, if you take anything to the extreme,
Yeah.
uh, joints could obviously take a toll on it. And yeah, you can suffer with arthritis at an earlier age. And uh, arthritis can happen to anyone. So it's always a big concern
All
in
right, cool.
doing
Let's move to the
exercise.
final point here. You said increased energy. Is this, are you talking about the runner's high here? I want to ask you about that too. So talk about
Yeah.
increased energy, and is that what you meant, or what did you mean by that?
Increase energy in terms of, like, for me, like feeling like I did something. Usually I run in the morning, and when I feel like I did something throughout the day, I feel more accomplished. Like if I just wake up in the morning and if I just eat breakfast, shower, and then let's say I go to class, as a college student, probably just go straight to class. I feel less accomplished than if I did those same routines, but then I also did 10 or 15 miles. I feel like I am ahead of the day. Like I did something that other people didn't do. And just mentally, to me, it feels better because I'm doing something, or I'm getting closer to my running goals, or for me, they're big goals right now. They're big achievements. So knowing that I'm getting closer to those by doing stuff to help achieve those goals.
I see.
Also, I would say, from the increased energy part, there's also, I would say, there's pros and there's cons to it. Um, Running to the extreme could obviously make you really tired. So there's been parts where if I do a really hard workout or do a lot of running, sometimes I'll feel a lot more fatigued through the day, and that's why I always preach just doing about 30 minutes to even 45 minutes of cardio a day, because this isn't going to be something, for the most part, that's going to make um, your whole day a drag. It's going to feel good. It's going to give you that energy and make you feel more youth, and give you, um, even staying in shape. Some people, they care, especially um, in the teens and that youth level. They care about the way their body looks. So being able to do exercising is going to help improve that, and it could
I think
improve mental
everybody
health.
does subconsciously, right?
Yeah,
You know,
like you have more confidence if
definitely.
you feel that your body looks better.
Samir, you want to build
Not
on?
that that matters. I feel you should be able to feel confident no matter how you look. That's you shouldn't feel confident only because of one factor. Like there's many factors to a person. It's not just one. Like
You
I'm
can use
not just a runner. Like I
tool to
think,
create confidence, right?
What?
You can use running as a tool to create that confidence in the way,
Absolutely.
right?
And
Yeah.
I think that's how you create confidence. Is sometimes you need a stepping stone. Like for some people, they don't have confidence. That's okay. You usually just have to have some kind of stepping stone that proves to you that you can get that confidence and that you can be um, a strong and confident person.
Right on, Jonathan. One more thing I wanted to ask. Not one more thing. That's the final thing I'm going to ask. Is there anything else that you would like to add on to the people who do not engage themselves in physical activity? What are they missing out on?
I mean, to me, there's so many factors. I mean, we can make this podcast 2 hours if if it was possible. But I mean, to me, there's the social, like we said. There's the mental. There's the physical part of it. I mean, there's even the cardiovascular part of it, or there's the health part of it. Like being able to, you can also live longer. Like everyone wants to live longer, like or expand their life. Like no one wants to be cut 5 years short of their life. So this is something that's huge.
So what would be the take home message for the people listening to this podcast right now? If
Throw on
you
the
had to tell,
shoes.
if you had to tell one thing to the people
Um,
who are listening, like what is that one thing that they should do or they should take encouragement from to run, or what's that one driving factor that you'd like to share that can make a major impact in a person's life?
yeah, since this is really about like exercise and health, like I would really encourage people who aren't doing some form of exercise to really find a way to find some kind of like routine or something in some form of activity, and maybe do it with like a friend or something that helps you stay like motivated to keep pursuing and exercise, and maybe even put a goal out. Like these are these are things that are going to help like with your life and like how you feel throughout your day.
All right, that's it. That's
Awesome.
all I have. That was great,
Man, you're
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. And I'm pretty sure whatever you shared today on this podcast is going to help a lot of people out there listening to it. So I'm glad that.
Hopefully a lot of people got took something away from exercise and health. Like that's I hope someone out there just it sparks something in someone. Like I
yeah,
always want to inspire others. I hope someone gets inspired by it just by listening.
yeah, no, I think you had a lot to say, and that was super cool. And I think you provided some great information for us. So we really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, everybody else, stay tuned. More episodes are coming. If you're a guest and you want to come on like Jonathan, please reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. And yeah, let's close out on a high note. Anything else you guys want to say before we press pause?
All right, I'm just going to say to all the people listening, have a great day, great week, and a great weekend. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode.